live from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, your weekly program of Ask Huda. If you have any questions, you will find the numbers displayed at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to call and ask, and I'll try my level best to answer whatever I have knowledge in. We have a number of questions from the emails. Amatullah says that I've never met my biological father or mother, and I do not know my father's name. I was adopted at birth and given my adopted father's name, but he abandoned me. I reverted to Islam and changed my name. Is this permissible to do? I have to keep the name of my adopted father, or take the name of my mother, which I have just found out, or can I take my husband's name as I have just got married? This question is a bit complicated. First of all, generally speaking, a person must not be called except after his father and his forefathers. So what many Muslim women do, due to their imitation of the disbelievers or of the non-Muslim countries and traditions, when they get married, they change their name to their husband's name. This is totally prohibited, and it has to be changed. And it's awkward when people call for feminism, and when they call for the rights of women, yet they themselves are the first to change their God-given names to their husband's names. In Islam, we don't have this. A woman keeps and is called after her father and her grandfather and her family name, never to be changed into anybody's names. This is the basics. Now, if a woman was born out of wedlock, so her father did not marry her mother, she is not to be called after her biological father, because there was no legitimate marriage. She would be called either after her mother's family, because this is the trend, that the child that was born out of wedlock is not to be called after the biological father, but rather by the mother's family. Or in an incident where a child does not know the father nor the mother. In this case, he would be, or she would be, given a name that is general. So the first name we have no problem with. Whatever your first name is, this is okay. Now, the second and family name, it should be general. So each and every slave of Allah is Abdullah. So if her name is Catherine, then her name would be Catherine, the daughter of Abdullah, Catherine Abdullah. If she took a Muslim name, her name would be, let's assume, Zainab bint Abdullah, daughter of Abdullah, or Abdul Rahman, because this fits all humans, Muslims and non-Muslims. They are all slaves of Allah. They are all slaves of Ar-Rahman. In your case, Amatullah, if your mother, whom you had discovered recently, acknowledges that she had a marriage contract with your biological father, you have to be called after him. If not, then you may be called after a general name like mentioned, Abdullah, etc., but not after your husband. And I hope this, inshallah, answers your question. Our second question of tonight is by Lena. And Lena asks a question that is often asked by young girls, young women. She says, can I welcome my girlfriends while I'm wearing a dress which is covering my knees, and under it I have tights? Now, in so many places, a lot of those who listen to such a question would be astonished. Why is she asking such a question? Well, I'll tell you why. The question is posed by someone who is either practicing Islam properly or living in a household of people who are practicing Islam. So most likely, maybe Lena is a practicing woman or a girl, or her parents are. And in so many places, we have this in our homes as well. There is this feud between the teenagers, between the youngsters, and their tendency to rebel against the traditions, against what is the norm. And they would argue and debate about issues without any knowledge, because simply they are following their own whims and desires. And this is the simplest way of putting it. Lena is asking about the ruling on wearing a skirt that covers the knees. So we know that a man's awrah is from the belly button to the knees. But for a girl or a woman, it is a bit beyond that. So it should be to the middle of the leg, as scholars say. Likewise, when it comes to the shoulders, she should not have bare shoulders. She should at least cover her middle of the biceps. And the scholars provided evidences backing this up, that she should not wear things that women do not usually wear their jewelry in. So the limit is where you wear your jewelry in. So this area is okay. Showing, exposing the cleavage is not. The shoulders, they used to wear bands on the biceps and jewelry. This is permissible. Beyond that, above that is not. Likewise with the legs, when a woman wears a skirt that reaches to the middle of the leg, this is okay. But if it is close to the knees, if she bends over or if she sits, the skirt would go up and it would expose some of her thigh or the knees, and this would become prohibited and not appropriate. Therefore, Lena, I would advise you to set a trend for yourself to please Allah and not to please your girlfriends, not to please your peers, not to please those who are around you. Because it is inappropriate that we become like sheep in a herd, just following the leader. Whatever they do, we do it. And this is the case with fashion. When they used to wear mini skirts, everybody wore mini skirts. When they decided to wear long dresses, everybody started doing this. The hippies, when they had beards, everyone thought that was cool. And when people shaved their beards, then this is the trend again. A Muslim is not like this. A Muslim, a proper Muslim, has rules and regulations. He abides by whatever Allah orders him to do and whatever the Prophet ﷺ instructs him to do. That's why he's a Muslim, a person who submits his will to Allah Azza wa Jal. So it's not what I say or what XYZ says. It is what Allah Azza wa Jal commands us with. It is what the Prophet ﷺ recommended us of, and what the scholars of Islam, whom we trust and believe in, came to understand from the Quran and from the Sunnah and gave us the verdict. So basically speaking, there is nothing wrong in what you are wearing, Lena. However, if you know that by bending over, the back of your thighs to the middle of your thigh would be exposed, or when you sit, the skirt would go above your knees, then it is not permissible to wear it in this case, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Muhammad says, is it allowed to personify countries by an image as a woman, for example? Back in India, there is a famous slogan which says, "Victory to Mother India," where the country is shown as an ugly dressed Hindu goddess. I don't feel comfortable while saying such things. Moreover, recently a Muslim politician said that no Muslim should say this. Is he right? I have no knowledge of what you are referring to, Muhammad. Nevertheless, to have an image of a woman claiming she is a goddess, this is total blasphemy. And for us as Muslims, we don't believe in this, let alone repeat it or sing it or even respect it. This is not part of our religion and our conviction. And no one can force you to believe in something that you don't want to believe. And India is well known for its freedom of religion. And I don't know if this is applicable now or not, but definitely you are not permitted to repeat such sayings or slogans if they have in their national anthem where you bow to something of the sort, a goddess or a flag or a country. We don't bow except to Allah Azza wa Jal. We don't prostrate except to Allah Azza wa Jal. Not even to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. We do not bow or prostrate. Therefore, what you're asking about is totally not permissible for a Muslim to do. And it is important to acknowledge the fact that we are Muslims initially. Then we are citizens of the country we live in. So I'm a Muslim, then I'm a Saudi. It's not the other way around. I'm a Muslim, then I'm an Indian. I'm a Muslim, then I'm an American. But it is totally unacceptable to be a citizen of a country and give the priority to your country over your religion. This is totally unacceptable in Islam. So this was Muhammad's question. For the brothers who are interested in calling in to put your questions forward, the numbers are displayed at the bottom of the screen as you see it at the moment. Wahid says here, there is a medicine that is prescribed to cure cancer, or they say it's likely to cure cancer. And this medication contains 50 milliliters of wine as ingredient in this medicine, along with others. Are we allowed to take that medicine? Please advise. First of all, it is not permissible for a Muslim to consume wine in any sort or fashion. Now remember, there is a difference between the presence of alcohol and between wine as an intoxicant. The Prophet ﷺ was asked about using wine as medicine, and he prohibited it. And he said that this is an illness by itself rather than being a medication. So this is not permissible. It is not permissible to use not even one drop of wine as a medication, even if it does not intoxicate you. So maybe I would take a glass full of medicine with a drop or two of wine. This is prohibited. With alcohol is different, because alcohol is a substance. If consumed as it is, it will kill you. It will burn your guts. So if added to medication, then we have to look at the end result, whether there is an alternative for taking it or not. If there is an alternative for another type of medicine without alcohol, then this is what we must take rather than that. If there is no other alternative, we have to look into, is it intoxicant or not? If they say it is intoxicating, then it becomes the same as wine. You must not take it or consume it. If they say no, it's not intoxicating, the percentage is so little that even if you drink a lot of it, it would not intoxicate you, then this becomes halal. So the wine itself, the ingredient itself, is totally prohibited to be used in medication. If you put wine in chocolates, even if you take 10 or 20 pieces, you'll probably become diabetic, but this doesn't intoxicate you. It is still haram to consume even one, and Allah knows best. So we have Abdurrahman from Cameroon. Abdurrahman.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine, akhi. Jazakallah khair. What can I do for you?
In fact, I have a question. In fact, if somebody is reading, let's say, like 2 juz of Quran every day, so when he travels to another place, is it compulsory then to read the 2 juz again if he travels to another place?
Are you talking about prayer, reading prayer, or reading Quran?
Reading the Quran.
Okay, why would he repeat it again?
Hello?
Why would he repeat it again? If he read it in his country, then he traveled to another country. Why does he need to?
Not for to a country, but to another place or village.
If he travels to another village, he read the Quran.
Yes.
If he wants to continue to read on, no problem in that, inshallah.
Okay. And the second question is it okay to burn a block made of mud for construction?
Is it permissible to do what?
To burn block like large block cement and block from mud.
Okay, so you want to build a... You want
Yeah,
to...
is it allowed to burn this block made of mud for construction?
Okay, I will answer you, inshallah.
And the other question is in a live program like yours,
Yes?
the name of the Prophet is Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Yes.
What about tomorrow when it will become a recorded program?
So when you hear the name of the Prophet tomorrow, alayhi salam, should you perform salat?
Yes, is it compulsory to say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in a recorded program?
Okay, I will answer you. Any more questions?
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Sheikh.
You're
And thank you
welcome.
for the sake of Allah.
Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair. Brother Abdurrahman's question about building mosques by bricks or blocks, I could not understand the question, but if I were to think of a reason, maybe because someone would say at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had only mud and they had only the trunk of palm trees and the leaves and the branches. Nowadays, if you build new mosques with blocks and bricks and cement, that would be an innovation. Maybe, I'm not sure if this is his point of view, and the answer would be no. This is not correct. You can build the mosque with any material because this is not related to ibadah. This is means for worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal. So having lights, having an air conditioner, having microphones, having loud speakers, all of these are not related to the prayer itself, meaning that if one of them is not there, the prayer is invalid or is not accepted. No, these are things that are accessories. They complete, they help, but they're not of the essence of the ibadah itself. So whether you build a masjid with wood or with bricks or with blocks made of cement or with clay, there's nothing wrong in that, inshallah, and Allah knows best. Shahid from Saudi? Shahid? Yes, Shahid.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Salatullah?
Sheikh, I've got a question.
Yes.
Sir, Allah says in the Quran, don't come to Salah in the state of intoxication because you don't understand what the Imam is saying.
Okay.
In this context, I'm a non-Arab, I don't understand Arabic. Where does my Salah stand in the sight of Allah?
Okay. Any more questions?
In the same context, during Asr and Zuhr, sir. the Imam doesn't recites slowly. We don't understand. We don't hear the
Okay.
recitation. So what do you have to say for this?
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
I will answer you, inshallah, with that. Abdurrahman's third question, he says that tomorrow I will be watching the rerun of this program. And I always hear you say in a recording or on a YouTube clip or in a recorded session, and you say, Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammad. So if I hear the salutation being offered to the Prophet ﷺ, should I repeat this? The answer is yes. Whether it's live or it's recorded, whenever you hear the name of the Prophet ﷺ, you should offer salutation. Unlike, for example, the adhan. When the adhan is being recorded and you hear it recorded, whether it's on time or not on time, you do not repeat behind that recorded adhan. You only repeat after the adhan when it's live, being done at the moment by a person and not by a recording. As for the salutation of the Prophet ﷺ, you do that without any problem, inshaAllah. Shahid is asking about a verse in the Quran where Allah Azza wa Jal says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون. O you who believe, do not approach prayer while in the state of intoxication until you know, until you understand what you're saying. So it doesn't have anything to do with the Imam reciting. Even if the Imam was reciting Arabic and you're an Arab, but you're in the state of intoxication, you should not pray. And why is that? Because the Prophet ﷺ even told us that if one of you is praying night prayer and he is a bit drowsy, feeling sleepy, he should retire and sleep. Because in this situation, you may ask Allah for forgiveness, and instead of saying, oh Allah forgive me, you say, oh Allah curse me. Because you're not focusing. So the Prophet tells you, no, you have to stop, you have to go and retire and sleep. Likewise, if a person is praying while in the state of intoxication, he's drunk. Instead of asking for forgiveness, he may curse himself. And one of the people who used to drink, he quit drinking after once being wasted, then urinating in a bowl, and then performing wudu, washing his face with his urine, and saying, oh Allah, make me among those who purify themselves and make me among those who repent. Allahumma ij'alni min at-tawwabin wa ij'alni min al-mutatahhirin. This is what you say after making wudu. And afterwards, when he was sobered and saw what he had done to himself, he took a vow not to drink again. You don't have to reach that level. You just simply have to submit your will and know that it is haram for you to drink or to be even close to drinking. This verse deals with you not knowing what you're saying. Not because you don't understand the language, rather because you are not in a state of mental health or mental case, so that allows you to do something that is permissible. Rather, you are in a state of temporary insanity when you're intoxicated. You do things and then you regret it. You do things and you don't remember it. You do things that you would never have thought of even doing when you were not drunk. So this is what the ayah is referring to. As for Asr and Dhuhr, it's the same thing. It is there is no relation, none whatsoever, to what the Imam is reciting, because you are reciting the Fatiha on your own, reciting the Surah on your own, and making dua on your own, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We have a short break, stay tuned, and inshallah we'll be right back. Allah, la ilaha illallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back. Muhammad says in a ritual if people gather together and say together, Ya Nabi, Salam Alaik, and offer durood on him like this, and an imam gives a lecture which is short and some recitation of some surahs take place a particular number of times, and at least a congregational, or at last a congregational dua takes place, will this be an innovation? Definitely this is an innovation. Offering salutation to the Prophet ﷺ must not be done in congregation. The more you offer salutation to the Prophet ﷺ, the closer you are to him on the Day of Judgment. But when you do this in congregation, in a gathering, and you add to that a number of innovations that were neither instructed by the Prophet ﷺ nor done by his companions, then you know you have entered into a dark area of innovation, of bid'ah. And the Prophet said ﷺ, whoever innovates in our religion what's not part of it, this is rejected. Allah will not accept this from you. And not only that, you will be sinful for doing something that is invented in the religion of Allah Azza wa Jal. So listening to a sermon by a speaker, a scholar, etc., this is good. If he is going to remind you of Allah Azza wa Jal, if he is going to teach you a verse of the Quran, a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, explain a fiqhi ruling, this is great. You can do that. But when you start to add things that are not part of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, this is almost similar to a mawlid. And we know that mawlid is not part of Islam at all. And this is innovated. And this is one of the ways of penetrating the Sunnah and trying to undermining it. So they distract people, redirect their intentions into from following the Sunnah into following their innovation. And sometimes they think that these innovations are far greater than their Sunnah. This is how they work and how they operate. So this is not permissible. Reciting the surahs a number of times, this is also not permissible, and the congregational dua as well. All of this is an innovation, and you have to stay away from it, inshallah. Siddiq from Nigeria. Ya Siddiq. Siddiq from Nigeria. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Yes, I have a question to ask.
Go ahead.
Alright, please, how many times is one expected to raise his hand while in Salah?
How many times is one is what? Ya Siddiq, how many times in Salah do what?
Are you raising up your hand while praying?
Raising your hand. Okay. Any more questions?
Yes, raising your hand.
Okay. Any more questions?
No, that's all.
Okay, I will answer you inshallah. Siddiq from Nigeria is asking, how many times do we raise our hands during the salat? And this is an issue that seriously we should not be so, how to say it, extreme about it. First of all, as Muslims, what is the ruling on raising the hands in the salah? Is it a pillar, or is it mandatory, or it is neither? The answer is it's neither. It's a sunnah. So if you do it and if you skip it, it's not going to invalidate your prayer. It's not going to affect your prayer. Okay, having this done with, let's go into the sunnah. How many times did the Prophet ﷺ raise his hands in salat? All Muslims agree that he raised his hand in the first takbir, known as takbiratul ihram. So when you want to inaugurate your prayer, you say Allahu Akbar. The takbir is the pillar of salat, not raising your hands. So even if I say in the beginning of a salat, Allahu Akbar, my prayer is valid. Now, are there any other locations where the Prophet ﷺ raised his hands? The answer is yes. the Prophet ﷺ raised his hands as in the hadith of Ibn Umar, who observed his prayer and reported that to us, and it's in the most authentic book after the Quran, which is Sahih al-Bukhari. He said that the Prophet ﷺ used to raise his hands, and this is from my pocket. So the Prophet raised his hands in two locations of the prayer only once, and in two other locations in every single rak'ah. So the first location that he only did it once in salah is in the beginning of the salat, takbiratul ihram. The second is whenever he stood up from the first tashahhud to the third rak'ah. And this happens in Maghrib, Dhuhr, Asr or Isha. So when he stands up to the third rak'ah, he said Allahu Akbar. And this happens only once. Now the other two locations that happen every single rak'ah, and that is when you want to bow for ruku', you raise your hands, and when you raise your head from ruku', you say Sami Allahu liman hamidah. And this happens in every rak'ah. Now this is a sunnah that is authentic. We have Ibn Umar reporting it to us. To make an issue out of it, and us versus them, and they say so many awful things, that this was in the beginning because some of the new Muslims used to put idols under their armpit, so when they raised their hands it would fall down. This is pathetic, and you can do something better than that. To make it an issue that divides the ummah, as some of the brothers told me in Pakistan, the imam there, if he sees them raise their hands, he orders them to get out of the masjid. Is this your father's masjid, to get people out of it? This imam is an ignorant imbecile for doing such things to people who are following the sunnah. Akhi, even if you differ with them, it's their prayer, not yours. Why are you angry about it? Because these people want the congregation to be like sheep, and they are the shepherds. They only listen and adhere to whatever they say, and this is totally unacceptable in Islam. Abbas from Nigeria. Okay, Abbas is gone. Muhammad from Saudi. Muhammad.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Muhammad.
Alaikum.
Salamullah.
Yeah. Yeah, Sheikh, I have a question I want to ask.
Yes, Akhi. Mute your TV.
I want to know, is it permissible for family planning in the Islamic guidance?
Family planning?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any more questions?
No, only that, sir.
Okay, I will answer you, inshallah. We have Abbas from Nigeria. Abbas?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaykum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Mute your television, Abbas, and listen to me from the phone, please.
My question is,
Yes.
okay, my question is, if you follow recorded Quran for recitation, is it allowed as against live scholar teaching you?
Is it allowed to what? Abbas?
Live. A teacher teaching you.
I didn't understand your question, Abbas.
Live scholar teaching you.
Okay, teaching you through what?
The question is, if you follow recorded Quran, yes, for recitation, is it allowed as against live scholar teaching you?
Okay, I will answer, inshallah. Any more questions? Okay. Muhammad from Saudi Arabia is asking about, oh, we have Hafsa from Nigeria. Mute your television, Hafsa, and listen to me from the phone, please.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I have a question. Supposing a Muslim dies in a situation, in a circumstance where it is assumed that he had a shahada, that is, he dies in a good cause.
Okay.
What is the opinion of the scholars with regards to his previous sins with Allah? Do we assume that all his previous sins are forgiven?
Was he martyred?
Thank you, Sheikh.
Was he martyred?
Yes.
Or?
No, not martyred, like people that died maybe and immediately after Arfa,
Okay.
or immediately after any religious act.
Okay. I will answer you, inshallah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Muhammad from Saudi Arabia says, what's the ruling on family planning? By family planning, usually people are referring to having a gap between pregnancies so that the mother can be able to take care of her child for 3-4 years until he is sort of controllable and she is medically and physically fit. And this is permissible, inshallah. There's nothing wrong in that. What is not permissible is to totally cut the means of conceiving. So this is not permissible unless there is a proven legitimate medical reason for that. Other than that, having a gap between 2, 3, 4 years until the woman is ready to conceive again, this is permissible, inshallah, providing that there's no harm being afflicted upon her due to these contraceptives or medication that she is consuming. Abbas from Nigeria, he says that if I listen to the Quran from a recorded tape or a CD or from the internet, and I learn from it, is it the same reward as learning from a scholar who is one-to-one teaching me? The answer is no. The reward while listening and reciting to a scholar is far greater, because when you listen to the Quran being recited and you mimic that with the reciter or you imitate him, it's a one-way road. So you are simply imitating without knowing if you are pronouncing the letters correctly or not, if you're doing the tajweed correctly or not. You need a third party. You need someone sitting with you, listening to your recitation in order for him to be able to correct you. If this is not possible and you don't have one available to do this, then yes, listening to the recorded Quran and learning from it would be your only option, and it would be the best option available. But if there is someone, and I believe that nowadays there are so many websites online and so many volunteers worldwide who know the Quran, can be with you online and give you one-to-one coaching in how to fix your recitation, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. We have Garaldine. Salam tullah. Your name is? Wa alaikum salam tullah. What's your name, my friend?
Zahruddin.
Zahruddin. Yes, sir.
From Nigeria.
Yes, my friend. What can I do for you?
Yes, I want to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
With regard to inheritance.
Yes.
A person who dies and has no children, but has younger ones. One of them, who is a man, they have the same father, but different mothers. And the other, they have the same mother, but different father. Why, when dividing the inheritance among them, Because I saw a case where the sheikh said the one of the same father with him would have higher percentage than the others that they have same mother with. I don't know what's the ruling on that.
So now a person dies, he does not have any offspring, he has brothers from his father and mother?
Yeah, he has a brother, only a single brother that they have the same father with.
So he has nephews, not a brother, no siblings.
He has a brother, not nephew, a brother.
Okay.
A brother. His mother married a man and they separated. So he has one brother from the same father.
Okay, so he has a brother from his father
Yes.
and another brother from his mother's side.
And then about 4 of them from the mother's side, she married again and she gave birth to the other 4.
Okay, Zahruddin, I have to ask you kindly, please send me an email so that I would give you a detailed answer. Give me the number exactly and I will inshallah reply to you by email.
All right, no problem.
Barakallah feek, akhi. Hafsa from Nigeria, she's asking about the sins of a deceased person. Now, if a person dies in a situation which is righteous, which is good, he's not a martyr. He did not die in the battlefield defending Islam or defending his honor. So he's not a martyr. But for example, he went for Hajj and there was a stampede and he died while in the state of Ihram. So will all of his sins be forgiven? Or for example, he was praying in the masjid and he died with a heart attack while in the middle of the prayer, etc. So are all of his sins forgiven? The answer is, this is in Allah's knowledge. As for the person who dies in the state of Ihram, the Prophet told us ﷺ, that he will be resurrected on the day of judgment in the state of Ihram and he will be giving talbiyah. That's why we do not shred him except in his ihram, and we do not cover his head, and we do not perfume him because he's still in the state of ihram. Now those who went to Hajj and performed Hajj and it so happened that they died afterwards, we know that Hajj erases all of the person's sins and this person has finished it, yet we don't know and we cannot testify that he was sincere, that he did not do any mistakes, that Allah accepted his Hajj. But we are hopeful. We say, Insha'Allah, but we do not testify because this is a testimony that you will be asked on the day of judgment to prove it. And we cannot do that. Therefore, we do not say that a person who died in a battlefield as a martyr, that he's in Jannah, he's forgiven. Because we don't know what's in his heart. Was he sincere? Was he fighting for the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal? Etc. So many conditions. Only Allah knows. We are hopeful, wishful, but we cannot testify of such a thing. Likewise, those who die in a form of worship, in the state of fasting, while praying, the Prophet told us ﷺ, that verily deeds are by their conclusion. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالِ بِالْخَوَاتِيمِ. So whatever Allah concludes your life upon, then most of your deeds would be judged accordingly. And this is scary, and also at the same time it gives glad tidings. So if a person was sinful all of his life and all of a sudden he changed, went for Umrah, started praying and died the second day after repenting, then Allah Azza wa Jal would treat him as a repenter. But if someone who was doing good deeds for 60 years, so what appears to us, and then he flipped before he died, and he started drinking and womanizing and partying, and he died, then may Allah, we seek refuge in Allah Azza wa Jal from this, and may Allah protect us. This is a bad ending because it was it concluded his deeds in such a fashion. Therefore, you should be wishful, hopeful, but Be careful, because this is a very dangerous situation. Fatima sent us a question. This is our last question, inshallah, for tonight. She says, Sheikh, what's the remedy for extreme waswas during salah, to the point that one can't focus, causing high distress and worry? This is a frequent question. And so many times I tell the brothers and sisters, this is what shaitan is doing to you. He's playing with you, and he's driving you crazy. He's driving you nuts. And you are responsible for listening to him. When you pray and you get these whispers, maybe you did not do this right, maybe you did not pronounce it correctly, maybe. These maybes, are they angel driven or Satan's driven? Definitely these are whispers from shaitan. All what he intends to do is to disturb you, confuse you, and eventually have you abandon prayer altogether. You will come to a stage and say, I don't need this anymore, I'm not going to pray. And if you listen to my lecture, which is Traps of the Shaitan, or Traps of Shaitan, it's on YouTube. It explains to you how he plays with people's psychology. He knows how people think. Those who have tendency to be strict in religion, he gets these whispers to an overwhelming extent and level. Those who are lenient and easygoing, he gets them to be more lenient and easygoing to the extent that they do not fulfill their obligation and do not perform wudu on, correctly. They do not pray on time, maybe they do not pray at all, because everything is easygoing. So you have to sit with yourself, ask yourself questions. Who am I listening to? Who is telling me to do this and not to do that? If it's shaitan, then you know that he's playing with you, and you have to stop this. Ignore whatever he says. He says right, go left. He says you prolonged your prayer, prolong it even more. And by this way of fighting him, inshallah, Allah will make you prevail. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. This is all the time we have until we meet next time. Not the following week, because the following week I won't be able to give a live session, but the week after. So in 2 weeks time we'll meet, inshallah. Until then, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A is for Allah, nothing but Allah. Ba is the beginning of Bismillah. Ta is for taqwa, bewaring of Allah. And Tha is for thawab, a reward. Ja is for Jannah, the garden of paradise. Ha is for Hajj, the blessed pilgrimage. Kha is for Khatam, the seal of the prophethood given to the Prophet Muhammad.